Golden State Take. It's Golden State Take.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Golden State Take. My name's Yanni. As you can see, Danny's not with us. We have Connor. He's our MLB insider and NL West, specifically our NL West insider. Welcome to the podcast, Connor.
Thank you. Long time listener, first time appearance, but I'm happy to be here and
Oh, yeah.
looking forward to it.
Awesome, man. Well, let's jump right into it. As you can see, he's a big Dodgers fan. So um, I know you got a lot to talk about with the NL West and with the Giants specifically. So why don't we just start with the Giants? What have you seen from them this year so far?
Sure. I mean, Dodgers fan. I'm never rooting for the Giants, but at the end of the day, I think baseball is better when the rivalry's good. And so far, it's been a different, disappointing season. I mean, they made a lot of moves in the offseason. Made went for Devers last year before the trade deadline, and it just hasn't worked out so far. What do you think as a Bay Area sports fan, and from what you've heard around the block? And
Yeah, I mean, well, I really started watching the Giants. Started watching toward the end of last year, and really a lot this year. I've been watching pretty much every game, and it just seems like again they've been a team the last few years. They've just been hovering around 500, not really bad enough to be one of the worst teams in the league, but they're not really realistically good enough to compete for a playoff spot. And I think making the trade for Devers and signing Adames was their that was their goal. The goal was eventually to get to being a contender, and obviously it hasn't worked out, and those players haven't lived up to the expectations the team had for them. And so I think pitching so far this year has been their strong suit, especially Roop and Robbie Reyes specifically. They've pitched really well this year. Webb's been okay, but he's had some.
he's got a 5.2 ERA.
Yeah, okay, yeah, okay. But like I feel like with Webb, his biggest issue is he's had one or two innings that have killed him in all of his starts,
Sure.
and he has started off pretty bad, and then as the game goes on, he starts to perform better. But like you said over a 5.2.
5.2, and
Yeah,
with Webb, he's been one of the most consistent starters in the game for a few years now. So you definitely expect that to come down a little bit. But I think with the way the Giants are built right now, I mean they're the top of the lineup isn't performing badly. I mean Chapman's playing okay, Adames is playing okay, Arias is hitting over 320, but I mean they're getting nothing from the bottom of that lineup,
yeah, it's
and
brutal.
things are getting bad. And at the time, I liked the Vitello hire, but unfortunately, the guy doesn't seem to be able to stay out of his own way. I mean,
Let's
he's
get
got.
it. Okay, hot take. Let's get into that. So you are obviously not a huge. Were you a fan of the signing at the time though? Like, did you understand it when they
I
made the
was,
decision?
I'm a fan of, and the Giants had come from Bob Melvin. Obviously, we know that. Very known traditionalist. He's been around the league for a long time, but I think it was getting a little stale. And so, I appreciate them taking a big swing. And again, it's 20 games into the season, so too early to tell. But uh, you know, it's not working right now, and it's if things don't get better quickly, it's not going to be great.
Have you seen specifically though? Because again, we can always say, well, it's not his fault that guys are struggling to get on base and the bottom of the order is doing nothing. But have you seen any, whether it's mid game adjustments or lack thereof, that make you believe he just is struggling right now from that perspective? Have you seen that specifically?
I think one of the big things I've seen is there's no continuity in the lineup. I mean, he's not letting guys get, except for the main core guys. I mean, he's
Right.
not letting guys get reps. He's switching things around. If you're a well established team, you've got veteran bats, guys who kind of know the deal. That's one thing, but I don't know. The Giants, they've got a lot of young players. There's a lot of roster turnover, a lot of lineup turnover right now, and they did win today, but
Yeah.
could be on the upswing. But things aren't working, so we'll see how it goes. I don't see them being, even if they're within 5-10 games of the deadline, I don't see them being sellers. So I don't think it's over yet, but definitely some work to do.
Well, and also like for today's game, I mean, Roop pitched a phenomenal game. They
He
gave
did.
up one hit as a pitching staff with their bullpen as well. So I mean, it's not even like their hitting really did anything today. I mean,
Sure.
Jung Hoo Lee had a pretty good game. I think he batted 3 for 4 tonight.
Yep.
But overall, it's not like they found their bats or found their offense
No.
so far. But I mean, Jung Hoo Lee has put together a couple good games, but he had a really slow start. Bader's been awful. I know he's injured right now, but
Yep.
to me, the Achilles heel for this team really has been Jung Hoo Lee and what you expected from him. Obviously, Devers hasn't played well, but Bader and Bailey. That bottom of the order has been so bad for this team. and I feel like it's hard to argue.
Yeah,
They've been terrible.
but I agree, but I'd say that you went into this season and let's be realistic. We're thinking you're thinking as a Giants fan, we'll be lucky if Patrick Bailey hits 220. And
Yeah,
Bader was brought in to not necessarily be I mean, I don't know, maybe I guess he was brought in to be the starting center fielder, but at the end of the day, what he hit well the last 2 years, but this is I mean, not this bad, but for a lot of his career, he's been a glove first center fielder, not necessarily someone you're going to rely on. I think it really comes down to Devers. I mean, the guy's OPS is under 600 right now. He's doing nothing in the middle of that lineup. Adonis is having an okay year. Chapman's kind of right around where he always is. But you know what? Another thing I'll tell you, it's the ambiance in that stadium is a little different these days. It doesn't seem like the fans are doesn't seem like the fans are as into it as they have been in recent years. You've got hour and a half long lines at the crab sandwich stand. You got guys in the premier seats spending all game at the merchandise shop. So we'll see.
well,
Things are bad.
especially Danny.
Things are bad in San Francisco right now, but you know, as a Dodgers fan, I hope they get better because the rivalry is good for baseball. It's good for all of us.
I wanted to ask you this before you get into that rivalry. Danny and I talked about this a few days ago. I'm in favor of playing Susac more, just because I feel like offensively he's produced in a short sample size, produced so much more than Bailey. And yes, I know Bailey is a great defender, but I feel like at some point you can't keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. And I feel like we've seen a big enough sample size specifically from Bailey that he is just not a reliable hitter. And I don't see that just randomly changing. So I've been in favor with going with Susac, and Danny's kind of more in the middle. Like he can understand why they kept Bailey in the starting lineup. What's your take on that
No, I
specifically?
agree with you here. I think at this point, we've seen what we're going to get from Patrick Bailey, and I honestly think his defensive value is even a little overblown. He's already got a couple pass balls, I think, this year. He's not throwing out runners at a particularly high rate. This is the MLB. If you're not performing, and like you guys touched on in the last pod, I mean, it's not like Susac, some no name, 28-year-old minor league player. He was a first round pick like
Right.
less than 5 years ago. So the guy's got talent. He's shown he can play, so I think it's time for a shakeup behind the plate, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I don't think him defensively is a liability of any sort. Like he may not be of the level of Bailey,
Sure.
but I don't think I like I said, I think the difference in hitting outweighs the difference defensively.
Yeah, and one anecdote from my team that I'll use is Will Smith, who has now evolved into one of the premier catchers in the sport. I mean, he didn't come up as some defensive stalwart. He was a guy who could hit. They got him in there, and his glove has come around. He throws out base runners at a high clip. He fields the staff well, and that's about. I mean, he's not going to win any Gold Gloves back there, but he's a good player. I mean, and I think Susak's a good player, and you got to just kind of again with the continuity thing, you got to play the guy, or if
Yeah.
he doesn't get reps, then what are you going to do?
How do you think? Because this is something that's always. And I love when they hired Buster. I thought he would do a great job. And again, it's still early on, so I'm not gonna write anything off just yet. But how would you assess the decisions he's made? Forget the Vitellos hire because again, we already talked about that. But just simply from on the field and the guys he's brought in, how would you assess what he's done for the team so far from that
Sure. I
perspective?
mean, I was a huge fan of the Adonis pickup. I think he's a great player. He's got a great glove. He hits for power. He hits for a relatively high average for being a 30 home run guy. By all means, it seems like he's a pretty good clubhouse guy as well. I loved the Devers pickup at the time. Still holding out hope for him if I'm putting myself into a Giants fan's shoes.
Yeah.
He's got a big bat. He's notoriously streaky. I think it was last year. It was either May or June where he was the best hitter in baseball for a month. So he's shown. I mean, he's a World Series champion. He's shown that he can be an elite hitter. So I don't think you're giving up on that just yet. I don't love Luis Arias. I spent the last few years in San Diego and I've watched him play. I've been around Padres fans. Nobody's a big fan of him
Hmm.
as a all-encompassing player. But the guy can hit, and he didn't. They didn't bring him on here to be an all-star or whatever. They brought him in to be an ancillary piece in that lineup, and he's done that so far. So we'll see. I think I think there's you can only do so much in a year. I love the Devers pickup. I
So you're
love the
still a
Adamas
fan of
pick.
that, although it has.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Okay.
mean, they gave up almost nothing for him. They gave up a top. He has blossomed in the Dodgers farm system, James Tibbs, but you gave up Jordan Hicks, who's now toiling away in the White Sox. You gave up some other just fringe prospect garbage,
Yeah.
whatever they gave up, and you get a guy who, I mean, they came in at the right time because Devers had kind of run his course in Boston, and they were looking to get rid of him. But even though it hasn't worked out yet, I think most Giants fans would agree with me that they're happy Buster's taking big swings, and we'll see how it goes. I'm not sold on the management of the team so far, but I think that Posey's done a decent job putting some talented pieces into place, at least making kind of swirling around some hype around the team. So I'm not ready to buy out just yet.
Yeah, I just don't know where I just don't know where they go from here because again, I'd be shocked if they made another management change so quickly.
Sure.
Um,
No, absolutely. No, no, no.
yeah,
I think Vitello's leash is at least 2 years.
yeah. So again, no reason why you're gonna come off of him, and it's like it's one of those things where again you've basically committed to wanting to contend and be a playoff team. Like I said, you don't trade for Devers, you don't sign a Dominus if you're not thinking that way. What do you think they're missing? Do you think it's simply just their top players need to play better, or do you think they need to go out and get more pieces or be more aggressive at the deadline or in the off season? Like, where do they go from here, though?
Well, I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I mean, the bullpen, I think, if I recall correctly, was kind of a weak spot last year. They didn't do much to address it. They lost Randy Rodriguez, who was an all-star last season. You've got you've got a lot of question marks in the bullpen. The back end of that rotation is a little bit questionable as well. I think at the end of the day, too, kind of what you touched on earlier. I mean, if you're getting nothing from the bottom of your lineup, it's hard to win baseball games. You can't have a black hole in the 7 through 9 hitters. So we'll see. I think that it's kind of death by a thousand cuts for them right now.
Yeah,
And it's not for lack of trying, but I do think some positive regression is due. We talked about the Webb ERA, the Devers OPS is. There's no way he's going to sit in the 500s for the rest of the season.
right.
So better times are ahead, but at the end of the day, I still see a 75 to 80 win team.
Yeah, and I think I agree with that. I projected them to be, closer to 84, 85, somewhere in there, but definitely not looking like they're heading in that direction. But I don't know. And another thing I've noticed and I picked up pretty early on is this team just doesn't feel like it's meshing. Like something is not clicking, and obviously losing plays a huge part in that. But like you see Devers the other day slam his bat in frustration after he struck out. You see guys just kind of moping around, putting their head down. I just feel like this team is not in sync at all. And
Sure.
again, the other team I watch a lot is the A's, and I feel like the A's are the complete opposite. They have a decent record, but they're not taking the league by storm. But it just seems like they're enjoying playing with each other a lot more. And I've noticed that the Giants just look miserable. And my thing is, it's mid-April. It's like if this continues, what is it going to look like in July or August down the stretch? Like I don't know. Have you picked up on anything like that or seen that at all, or do you think it's just as
Yeah.
simple as like they're just losing games?
Yeah, I mean, and speaking to when we were at the game a couple weekends ago, it's I can echo that. It's a lot of bad kind of slouching shoulders in the clubhouse.
Yeah,
Guys not that I'm down there on the field or anything, but as a self-anointed body language doctor myself, I mean, it doesn't look good in there right now.
but
I'll tell you that.
but you
And
blame the fans too because the
oh
fans are
well,
garbage.
I
Right?
don't blame the fans, but this has been a talk, and touching on the Warriors quickly, it's the Bay Area, the limousine liberal fans, shall we say? They're not giving the Giants the same energy they need, I think, and I think everyone involved with the organization, including the fans, needs some tough love. So
Who's the leader of that? Is it Mark or is it Cameron? Who's the leader of that?
the limousine liberal
Yeah,
committee. We can say it's
Cameron.
Cameron.
Mark's in shotgun though.
Yeah, yeah. Mark's riding shotgun.
Um, okay, moving on from the Giants because I know you have a ton of NL West in general. Just talking about the division, I know you got some hot takes.
Sure.
Fire
Yeah.
away.
Well, we can start with. I mean, I'll start with the Dodgers. As advertised, the Dodgers are 14-4. They're leading the league in batting average, home runs, second in ERA. I won't spend too much time on it. I mean, Otani looks like he might win the MVP and the Cy Young this year. This is all without Betts, Tommy Edman, obviously two crucial pieces from the last couple of years. It's the team that's as advertised. They're going to be tough to take down. I think if you're a team in the NL West, you got to be thinking about your long term future. Going back to the Giants, it's are we going to sell at the deadline? Are we going to sell our soul at the deadline to try and take down the Dodgers? Probably not. Quick shout out to Andy Pajes, kind of a had a rough postseason last year. Been one of the best hitters in baseball so far this season. I think he leads the MLB in WAR. But yeah, I mean, they're an organization that knows how to win. They've got guys waiting in the wings. Sure, they spend a shit ton of money, but it's a well-run team, and they're going to be right up there again. And it's a good reason why they're favorites to repeat for the third straight year.
What do you think was the difference though with them? Because again, even when the Giants were, in the middle of their dynasty, the Dodgers were always competitive and right there. So it's not like the Dodgers
Not
were.
really.
You don't think so?
Well,
You don't think they had a couple of good years there?
They missed the playoff. I mean, they missed. I know they missed the playoffs in 2010. I think they missed it in 2012. They may have made it in 2014, but I think the Dodgers were a little bit like the Giants back then. They had some big names. They had some guys underperforming. I mean, those were the prime Kershaw years, so you could always lean on him.
Right.
But I mean, the way this Dodgers team is ran, it's impeccable. I mean, they've got Andrew Friedman, who, as we all know, took the Rays to the World Series in 2009. They've if you think about Moneyball, that scene at the end where Billy Beane doesn't go to the Red Sox, it's kind of what happened in Tampa, but he did take that big offer with the Dodgers, and it's
Yeah.
just it's money laden Moneyball. So we'll see. I mean, it's baseball. Anything can happen. I think at this point, it sounds cliche, but the one thing I think that can hurt them is injury. It's a deep pitching staff, but it's not a particularly durable one. Yamamoto has shown he can throw 200 innings in a year, especially over in Japan. But after that, you've got Glasnow. Hasn't shown really he can pitch more than 130, 140 innings a year. You've got some younger guys. You've got Ohtani. Obviously, he's hitting. He's kind of a wild card, in my opinion, in
Yeah.
terms of durability. You've got some youngsters. Emmett Sheehan, who I love, but who knows? I mean, these guys are all in their early 20s. Sasaki looks like he might just have to, go back to the bullpen. But at this point, I'm nitpicking because this team
They're set up to
This team is
contend
loaded,
again, yeah.
and they're set up to win again. So
Where would you say like the shift though happened though? Because again, since 2017, 2018, they've been in the World Series 4 or 5 times.
yeah, I
Now,
mean, they
so like,
lost. They lost to the Astros in 2017.
and then
That
the
was at
Red
Game
Sox.
1 of that series. Lost to the Red Sox in 2018, and then after that, they didn't make it back until they won in 2020, the COVID year,
And then back to back.
but and the COVID years, you can think of it what you want. Everyone and the Dodgers did win in an abbreviated season. What I will say is what's changed in decent years. It's easy. It's one guy, Shohei Ohtani. I mean, the man is a superstar. He's a god. So
So you think
it's
it's just as
changed
simple
everything.
as that? Because like, has there been anything in ownership that really made this franchise like such an elite franchise, or like was because we look at the Warriors being Warriors fans. You look at Joe Lacob buying the team, and maybe that being the front office shift that the team needed, and then obviously you bring in like a Bob Myers, Steve Kerr, but like it was really the ownership change that kind of propelled the organization and started them going in the right direction. Was there anything like that with the Dodgers?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Magic Johnson is the figurehead of kind of the Guggenheim ownership group. They were owned by the McCourt era, and who kind of I've talked to a couple older Dodger fans, disillusioned with the ownership group. I mean, but that was way back in the early 2010s. I think it all started. It all started with the Cody Bellinger, the Corey Seager, that era of Dodgers, and it's been in my opinion, it's been a long time coming, and it's been a well run organization for 10 years, and we'll see. I love to win, but we'll see what happens. And again, it's baseball, so anything can happen. And I hope for just a great competitive rest of the season.
I know you may be biased because you're a Dodger fan, obviously, and obviously baseball's been around a long time. You can even say up till this point, but even if they win another World Series here this year and next year, where does this dynasty rank to you these last few years as far as like, I don't want to say maybe all time, but maybe in the last, 20, 30, 40 years, like,
It's the greatest dynasty in the last 50 years for sure.
you think so?
I mean, no one's gone. I can't off the top of my head remember if anyone's gone back. Let me check here on my just a quick research here from your insider. But I mean, the
Because when
Giants
you
won.
think of the Giants,
The
you think
Giants
the
won three,
Yankees.
and I mean, the Giants won 3 in 6 years, and at the time, when that was happening, it was crazy.
3-5, 3-5. Give us
3 and
some
5,
3 and
true,
5. Give
true.
us some more credit than that.
At the end,
Did the
The
Yankees
New
go
York,
back to back?
The Yankees did it. The Yankees did it in '98 to 2000.
Okay, because they had
So those are the
a
Jeter.
window where they got 4, right?
So
Like 3.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, okay, it's right. You're right up there with the late '98 New York Yankees. Obviously, there's some similarities there with in terms of the financial spending and that sort
Yeah.
of thing. But yeah, I mean, I think this is as good of a baseball team I've ever seen. They're loaded at every position. They're loaded in the farm. They're primed to make another move if they need to. And I would be surprised if they weren't right up there and competing for another World Series. And I would go so far as to say I think this team looks. I mean, right now they're 14-4, and I could see them challenging that 116 game win record this year.
So it's pretty clear they're going to be
I haven't even
first place.
mentioned Blake Snell, by the way, who's
Oh,
on the shelf right now, but obviously great pitcher, Cy Young Award caliber pitcher. So
so we know they're going to be in first place. Obviously, we have a race for second place between. I mean, I didn't look like the Giants are going to be there, but you have Arizona, you have Colorado, and then you have San Diego. What have you seen from those 3 teams? And talk about them, and who you think will be that second seed or second in the division, or if any of those teams even can put up a fight against the Dodgers at some point, or make a deep run in the NL.
yeah, I think the Dodgers are going to win the division, but I love what I love what I've seen from the Padres so far. A lot of questions coming into this offseason, coming into this season about the management. Mike Schultz retires in the offseason. You bring in Craig Stammen, a former relief pitcher, kind of a not loved hire down there in San Diego. But you know what? And a lot of questions around the starting rotation. But you know what? The starting rotation has held up. And the bullpen obviously has been dominant. I mean, Mason Miller looks like he's never going to give up a run ever again. Um, the lineup's been good. Machado's having a good year. They're scoring runs even with Tatis not playing well. And at the end of the day, I mean, this is a team that was built to take down the Dodgers, and if they keep this up, they're going to be right up there. The fans, it's a great stadium. The fans love the team. I'm not a big fan of the Padres myself, but they've got veteran guys in the clubhouse. They've got some young studs. Jackson Merrill's a great center fielder. They did a great job at the deadline last year. Got Laureano. Uh, I still think in as a concept, I still think the trade for Mason Miller is complete malpractice. I mean, I can go into that later.
Oh,
But
go into it now.
sure,
We're
sure.
already here.
So the last year, the
Yeah.
Padres gave up Leo DeVry, number 3 prospect in baseball at the time. I believe he's now just in the number 2. Now on the Athletics for Mason Miller. And I'm not sure what AJ Preller was doing. I'm not sure if he was huffing glue in his front office or something, but there is one thing you don't do, and it's trade generational keystone position prospects for relief pitchers. And at the end of the day, even if Mason Miller is coming in here and he's, saving 60 games and he has a .34 ERA, it's not worth it,
No.
because if this guy on Leo DeVry profiles to what I think he could be, this is a superstar in the making. I'm getting a little off kilter here, but at the end of the day, the Padres are they're a well-run organization. The GM likes to take big swings. They want to win. The fans are behind him. So I could see they're my team. That's right there, I think. And Tatis has not had a great start to the year, but I do think that obviously his track record has shown he's a great player. He's one of the rare 5 tool
Yeah.
players in the league. He can kind of play anywhere. But yeah, I think the Padres are right there. I could see them taking a big swing at the deadline. Couple names that might get floated around. One name, Tariq Skubal, floated a lot in the offseason. The kind of disrespectful offer the Tigers gave him was well publicized, but $20 million a year for the reigning Cy Young Award winner, probably not going to cut it. And I mentioned Tatis. I think with the depleted farm, I think Tatis, he's not quite the guy in San Diego he was a couple of years ago. I think he could be part of that trade package. And I think if you have a chance to get a frontline starter like Skubal, and as we know, like I said, AJ probably loves to take big swings. I could see that being a possibility for them.
So you actually think Tatis could be a potential? Like you wouldn't put it past the Dodgers or the Padres to make a move like that?
Not at all. Not at all. And I think
And you would support that?
if I was a Padres fan and you're getting Tariq Skubal, yeah, I would support it. Hell yeah. I mean, Tatis he's great. I mean, he's the current face of the franchise. But if you have a chance to get a guy like Skubal, who's he's not even that old yet, he's in his prime. I mean, the guy pitches great in big games. He's got a track record. I mean, this guy is an absolute beast. And Tatis is again, he's a great player, but he's a little inconsistent. He's got an interesting temperament, but I think if you're Detroit And knowing that you've got this guy locked up for the next, I think it's 11 years, $22 million, you take a swing on that. And I think San Diego in their shoes says yes as well. So something to watch come trade deadline time.
Well, and I feel like at some point, like you said, they like to be aggressive, but they're gonna have to do something because the Dodgers have been dominating for the past decade or so, and so
Sure.
in order to be the best, you're gonna have to beat them at some point, especially being in the same division as you. Do you feel like they could actually like make a run this year, or do you think they're still maybe a year off from that, like being fully loaded, ready to go?
Well, it's hard because they've got, you've got Bogarts, you've got Machado, you've got guys like Gavin Sheets. There's some veterans on this team.
Yeah,
Joe, you hope you get Joe Musgrove back at some point. You do have Michael King, who I think is probably the most underrated pitcher in the National League. Um, they've got some young players, but I wouldn't say overall it's a young team. So they're there. They're the scariest team, and also, I mean, as we've seen, I think it was 2020. I think it was 2022 when they kicked the Dodgers' ass. And
yeah.
the Dodgers notoriously don't play great in San Diego. San, not, I mean, in recent history, I mean,
Right.
and we'll see. I mean, they're a fervent fan base, a fervent team. I think they're right there. So we'll see. I don't know about a deep playoff run, but I think they'll make the playoffs. I think they might be the first wild card team, and I think the Dodgers might see them down the road at some point.
So I'm sensing it's them two are kind of have a bit of a gap between them and then the bottom three. What do you think about Colorado and Arizona?
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Arizona is they've got some great players. I mean, Corbin Carroll, aside from Shohei Ohtani, would probably be the MVP frontrunner right now. I think he's only 26, 27 years old. Great player. But the thing is, I mean, D-backs have kind of sold off a lot of pieces at this point.
Right.
They're not really committing to win right now. So I don't see them, and I see them being sellers at the deadline again this year. I think you hang on to Carroll, but Ketel Marte, another big name to watch. Apparently, he's had a little bit of a falling out with the organization as well. So definitely something to watch there. I mean, they've got some good players that could definitely be on the move.
More like a
I just,
retool situation.
yeah, I don't. I think they've got enough talent. Well, they'll make things interesting in the West, but they're not a team that's going to be making the playoffs in my opinion, or making any sort of deep playoff run. Yeah, I mean, that leaves Colorado, who is going to be bad once
Yeah.
again. They're going to lose 100 games.
What's their deal though? Are they? Do you see any direction for like? Do you see a positive direction for that organization or?
They're slowly getting better. They have some exciting young guys on offense. Some younger guys that didn't necessarily land with their former teams. You've got Mickey Moniak, who was on the Phillies for a couple years. He's kind of revived his career there in Colorado. Edward Julian, who they picked up from the Twins this offseason. It's been a pretty solid get for them at second base. The problem is two of their younger position players who were great 2 years ago, Ezekiel Tovar and Bretton Doyle. It's looking more and more like those years might have been an anomaly. Doyle especially has had a really rough go of it the last 2 seasons. And the big problem with them is they're always going to have to outscore their opponents because no pitchers want to pitch at Coors Field.
Yeah.
Why would you?
It's like the opposite of Oracle Park.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. I mean, and they do have a young guy. I think Chase Nollander is his name. I think his fastball is, average velo is up in the 99, 100 range.
Yeah.
Doesn't really seem like he knows where it's going yet, but definitely a lot of promise there. But we'll see. I mean, the Rockies they're doomed to the confines of their own stadium, so they're going to have to find a long-term solution to make that work. And whether that's outscore everyone or whether it's find some guys who pitch to ground balls only, then that's going to have to be how it is. But at this point, once again, they'd be lucky to lose less than 100 games. So.
Well, there you have it. That's the NL West breakdown. Do you have any teams or players that you want to talk about in the NL?
Yeah, no, I'd love to. A couple things, yeah, I'd love to touch on. Two players in specific come to mind, and I watched the Giants game earlier today, and there's a young guy in Cincinnati by the name of Chase Burns. Absolute flamethrower. He's got a great fastball, wipeout slider. Changeup still needs a little work, but a great arsenal for a young pitcher. What I was really impressed by today too is wasn't striking out a lot of guys. Couldn't really seem to locate his fastball, but still managed to get through 6 scoreless innings. To me, that shows grit. It shows a lot of it shows grit and it shows composure that you want from a frontline starter. My hot take is I would even go so far as to say that I think excuse me, Chase Burns will be in the Cy Young conversation come award season.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
And then one more guy I'd like to talk about over in Atlanta, young catcher by the name of Drake Baldwin.
Okay.
And let me tell you about Drake Baldwin. So came up last year. He was in a little bit of a platoon purgatory with Sean Murphy, but all he did was hit, and they had to keep playing him, and he ended up winning National League Rookie of the Year. So far, the guy's hitting over 300. He's got 5 bombs. He's leading the league in runs, and this is all with a down year from Acuna. I could see Baldwin being right up there in the MVP conversation as well. Atlanta staff's currently first in ERA, so who knows? Anything can happen. Baseball's crazy.
Well, we're definitely gonna have you back on, and
I got one more. I got
yeah,
one more
go,
take
go,
for
go,
you,
go.
actually.
Go.
NL East. Building on that, we'll see. The Braves have been there. I think my hot take. I think the Phillies are done.
They're done.
Old. They're done.
They're washed.
Old knit, and I've got a one hot take for you. Watch out for the boys from South Beach. The Miami Marlins have some. They've got some hot young studs in the rotation.
All right.
They've got some power. They've got some speed in the lineup, and I think there's exciting things brewing down there in Florida.
Well, why do you hate the Phillies? Tell me.
I don't hate
why
the
are they
Phillies,
washed?
but
Why are
I
they
think
washed?
Harper. I think we all saw it in the World Baseball Classic. The guy has lost a step. Trey Turner, a guy that's pretty for the last few years has relied on his explosiveness. He's not quite the same player he was. They've lost some guys. I just don't see it with them. I think they're more of an closer to an 85 win team, 84 win team. I don't think it's going to be as great of a division as everyone thinks. But I think the Marlins have a team that's going to keep getting better. They've got some really promising young players. They're building something good down there, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that division shakes out.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Well, he said it all. This is Connor again. He's definitely going to be back on. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Later this week, we're going to be talking the end of the season for the Sharks. We're also going to be talking Warriors versus Phoenix playing game tomorrow. Who you got for the playing?
I
You gotta
got the
go-
Dubs, of
You got to
course.
go Warriors.
Yeah. Oh,
All
yeah.
right, guys. We'll see you next week.